Hi, this is James Cook of the University of Maine at Augusta, and this is part 7 in a YouTube video series that's describing how you can take a really cheap, a really simple, a really small, really lightweight computer called a Raspberry Pi, and you can turn it into a data mining and data analysis tool for social media. You can become a social media analyst in a relatively short set of steps. So these are the 6 steps that are prior to today. You should go and look at my YouTube video channel and find these videos if you need to get up to speed on assembling your Pi, on installing Raspbian software, a graphic operating system, which is one of 2 operating systems, the other one of which in video 3 is described of as text-based, that is you type commands rather than clicking on menus. In video 4 you can find out about installing R, which we're going to use for analysis later on. It's a program that tells you about patterns in data. In episode 5, we talked about the social media platform Twitter and how you can use a computer program called Python with relatively simple commands and an extension called Tweepy, which is short for tweets and Python, to actually grab real live streams of social media data. And finally, in the 6th part, we talked about debugging. What happens when your program goes wrong? How can you fix it? Well, today we're going to talk about saving data. And we're going to talk about saving it to a file called CSV, which is a universal format. If you can understand CSV, or you can turn your data into CSV, then any computer program should, in some way or another, be able to read that data. So it is a universal way of storing data. That's what we're up to today. To very quickly review, this is the graphic user interface of Raspberry Pi. And within that, it's possible to open up a terminal. In that terminal space, we can start a new script by typing pico to start a very small word processor. And we could then enter the name of a program. And we could name it anything we want, except that it has to end in .py. And then our program that we've written so far is going to have the following elements. First, the importing of a library, a package of commands that you could use in Python. Second, a set of keys and tokens that we use to access Twitter. And you would put them inside your quotation marks as indicated here. The third area is a series of codes that we use to grab Twitter data, starting with the invoking of an authorization and then moving on to a particular request for a particular kind of data. This particular example obtains the latest tweets or Twitter posts by real Donald Trump, the campaign Twitter account of Donald Trump. But we want to do more than simply print out information about when a tweet was created, tweet.created@, and when and what kind of text we might have. We want to save that. We don't want it to be ephemeral and only appear on a screen and then disappear. To save it, we want to add a new section, one that will save our work, save our results as a CSV file. And that's what we're going to include below. To do this, we are going to open up a file, a CSV file. And to do this, we'll type CSV file equals open to open a new file. And then in parentheses and quote, the name of a CSV file. perhaps CSV try 1.csv. We'll end the quote, put in a comma, and then we're going to put in WB, which is a kind of binary format that we want to put in simply because it's broadly interpretable even across Windows machines, which tend to be ubiquitous. Then we're going to use our next line to use the command csv.writer. So it's a library called CSV and a command called writer. And this writer is going to write what? Well, in parentheses, we say we'd like you to write a CSV file. And we're going to not set the delimiter just yet, but we'll come back to it. Okay? So it's possible, I'll just note here, to add a delimiter of various sorts. Could be a comma, it could be a semicolon, it could be the letter O. Can you think of various reasons why a semicolon, a comma, or the letter O might not make good delimiters? We'll get back to that. But for now, we can just leave that out because it's a subcommand. But we have invoked a new kind of command, one within the library CSV. So in order to make that work, we need to go up to the top and make sure that we import that library. We're going to import CSV so we can use CSV commands like csv.writer, a kind of writing set of commands for the library CSV. And then finally, we have to have something that we want to write in there. And so let's try this out. We'll say for, which means for each, really, for each tweet in user underscore tweets. And what is that? That is the variable that we use to capture all the recent tweets from real Donald Trump, if you look up above. And then we'll put in a colon. And then we're going to indent, as you noticed we did up above, so that we have a set of things that what one does when there is a tweet that occurs in this container of tweets called user.tweets. What do we want to do? Well, we could simply state that we want to invoke a new kind of command, one that we work with CSV writer with, which is something that comes out of the CSV library, as we defined above. And we could simply say we would like to write a row. And in that row, we'd like to take some variables we have, like tweet.createdAt and tweet.text. And we could simply say we would like to include them. And tweet.text. However, if we do so, we're going to run into a problem. And it sounds like a simple problem, but it's not really. The problem is that, and I see I have a typo up here. In the API that Tweepy uses, the application programming interface that comes from Twitter, the tweet text that comes out often has very strange characters in it, things that are not part of a normally recognized text set. And that means a lot of things that are complicated, but one thing that it means that it's really simple is that it will often make your program just shut down. So knowing this, we're going to say, hey, we'd like regular text. Regular text meaning Unicode, okay, which is a kind of a universal code. And so we'll type a bracket and then Unicode, and then we'll put tweet created at in parentheses. And what kind of encoding should we have? Well, a very standard kind of encoding. We'll add a dot and then encode, parentheses, quote, UTF
a universal text format, and there's a brand called 8. Okay, we'll put that in quotes, and then an end parenthesis, and then we'll want to do the same thing for tweet.text. We'll put it in Unicode, tweet.text, encode, and then parenthesis, UTF-8, and then the end bracket and the final end parenthesis. Now we want that all to be on one line. I just put it on a new line so you could see it. This looks a little bit more complicated than what we wrote in the line just a minute ago. But the magic of programming and saving it is that you have to get it right just once. And then you can simply take your variable names and you can plug in new ones whenever you need them. You'll know you have the right format once you get it to work just once. And we'll save it. Control X, and then we do want to save, and we'll press Enter, and then we'll be able to type in Python and then the name of our file to run it. Now, in order to make it really run, I'm going to have to go back in and put some actual consumer keys and consumer secrets in that actually work. So you'll forgive me for not sharing those on screen, but you should, as in previous lessons, obtain consumer key, consumer secret, access token, and access token secret from Twitter. If you need to know how, look at episode number 5 for information on that. For now, we'll take a break, and then I'll come back having put those consumer keys, tokens, and secrets in their right place in CSV try 1.py. Okay, let's give this a try. Python CSV try 1.py, and let's see what we get. Oh, it looks like we have a syntax error. So let's take a look. I can see what the problem is already. We'll always have to do a bit of debugging. It looks like with my printing, I used another command language standard. We don't want to have an equal sign in there for printing. And I'm making sure I take that out now. We literally just want to print and then put parenthesis in. So that's a syntax error. It happens. You know, very rarely do I ever get a program running on the first try. There's always some kind of error I put in. Maybe that's just me, but maybe it's you too. Wow, look at this. Okay, so we have printed information, which is pretty darn messy. But then there's a printout that says save results as a CSV file, which we wanted to have as a print statement if the program got that far. And now we have our regular prompt again. So if I look in the directory by typing ls, will I see CSV try1.csv? I sure will. There it is. So let's take a look at it. And we can use Pico to do that. CSV try1.csv. Just like that. Hey, this looks great. We have date time here. We have a comma, and then we have the text of the tweet. That's really great. And because the text is big, it sometimes goes off the edge here. That's good. I am a little bit worried about something. I noticed that there's a comma here. And then I imagine that Donald Trump's tweets sometimes must use a comma. And look, here we are in a mention of one of his nemesis, which he calls Goofy Elizabeth Warren, a senator from Massachusetts. Right in the middle, there is a comma. If this is a comma delimited file, that means each item, each variable is separated by a comma. That's going to be a problem. And this is why sometimes it's not a good idea to have your comma be a delimiter. Look, there's another one right there. Uh, again, Goofy Elizabeth Warren. He's very consistent as a candidate in the adjectives he uses. So what can we do to solve this? Well, it's that delimiter subcommand that we were talking about. So now let's take a look at CSV try1.py, and let's think about using the delimiter command. So we'd go to this csv.writer command, and we'd type in a comma within the parentheses, and then delimiter, the thing that sets the limits, to equal, and then we'd put in text the thing we want to delimit. Now, I have a favorite one. Different people have different favorite ones. Mine is something called the pipe character. It's usually this vertical line that is beneath the backspace or delete in the upper right-hand side. So let's try that. And then I'll want to put an end text. Okay, so and let's save that as CSV try2.py. Save it under a different name. Oh, and let's CSV try2, CSV try2.csv. Let's go through and let's name it, give it a different CSV name for the output. Output is simply the file that you want to get in the end. Now we're going to start Python CSV try1.py, excuse me, .2, try2.py. We want the second try. Let's see if that makes things look different. Okay, let's take a look at our directory, and there is a file. Let's always check your work, CSV try2.csv. And look, now you see these pipes. And hardly anybody ever uses that pipe character in natural language, which makes it a great way of delimiting. It separates out the date and time of the tweet from the text of the tweet. This is pretty good. Anyone see a problem though? Oh dear. Down at the bottom, on May 11th, at the day of the Nebraska and West Virginia contests for the Republican nomination, it looks like Donald Trump, the candidate, entered a tweet in which he included an end of line character, a character that makes you say, okay, let's go to the next line then. This is a problem because in a CSV file, every row should be a different case. We want to get rid of that. We want to get rid of that way of, some people call it a carriage return, some people call it an end of line character. We want to get rid of it. We want to make sure that for any one tweet, it's all on one line. Otherwise, a computer reading through this is going to think that Make America Great Again, the hashtag, is the beginning of a new line with a new case. And it's going to be very confused that it doesn't actually find a date and a time. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's go back into CSV try2.py, the program, not the result. And let's think about the row that we're writing. Okay, it's Unicode of the tweet that we had created at and the tweet.text. But we want to somehow modify that, right? So how could we modify that? We could modify that by replacing that end of line text with something else. And guess what? There's actually a handy dandy way to do replacing of a particular kind of text within a variable, which is like tweet text. And the way to do that is with the replace command, which is pretty good. We're going to create a new variable. It's going to be called better tweet because it's going to be a better tweet text. And it's going to be equal to tweet.text, but we're going to do something with it. What are we going to do with it? Well, dot replace. So tweet.text is the name of the variable, and then the dot replace means we're going to replace something with something else. What are we going to replace? Well, in quotes, this \n, that is an end-of-line character. That is how it's encoded in Twitter. And this is just something you have to know, so I'm passing it on. And then what are we going to replace it with? How about a nice big fat space? Okay, and then what we're going to do is, in the next line, we're not going to put in the original tweet.text. We're going to put in its replacement, better tweet. Okay, and we'll see what we could do about that. Let's save this as CSV try 3.python. Oh, and while we're at it, let's save the CSV file that's output as CSV try 3.csv. Okay, so we'll change the output file. Then we'll hit Control X to exit, save the modified buffer, and change the file name. This is a great way of saving what you've done before in case you mess things up as you go, which happens all the time. And we'll save it under a different name. Yes. Now let's go to Python, and we'll Python CSV try 3.py. Okay. So shall we take a look? Do a directory listing, ls. Oh, good. We have a CSV file. Let's take a look at that. Pico space CSV try 3.csv. Oh, and look, they're all on the same lines. Oh, that's wonderful. What could be better? What could be better? Well, one thing could be better. It would be nice if we had maybe headers at the top of the columns that describe what these things are. Wouldn't that be nice? Sure, it would be nice. How could we do that? Well, let's go back to Pico CSV try 3.py, and let's think about how you write a row. It's this command here, CSV writer dot write row. Now, this command says we're going to write a row for every tweet that we have. But what we really want to do when we want to create a header is that we want to put something up above it, right at the top, before we go through all the tweets. So we're going to create a space in our program here, and then we're going to type in CSV writer dot write row. This looks like what it is below, right? Except now we're going to put in a couple of parentheses, and then we're going to type in text. And I'm telling the computer it's text by putting it inside a quote. We're going to put it in all uppercase so we notice it. Date underscore time underscore stamp, and then a comma, and then text of tweet. And then it will use CSV writer, which is a command that uses csv.writer to create a row in a CSV file with a delimiter of a pipe before it goes through all those user tweets of Donald Trump. So let's save this again as our last for today, CSV try 4. We're making it look better, we're giving it a better format, and we're going to save it as CSV try 4.py, save it under a different name, and then Python CSV try 4.py, and then we'll look at the directory listing. We see that there is indeed a CSV. So let's look at it. Pico CSV try 4.csv. And isn't that lovely? We have headers now. So we could send this to ourselves by email. We could open this up in Microsoft Excel. We could mess with it in a number of different ways, import it into a MySQL database that's on the internet. put it in so many different places. Microsoft Access, all of these can read it. We could put it in a table on a web page. This is really handy. What we're going to do next, having had this success, is to think about what kinds of structures we might want to put in these comma delimited files to represent what kind of data. Hashtags, URLs, which are web addresses that are included there, and these relationships that occur. How can you depict relationships in a CSV file using these kinds of commands? That's what we'll be up to next.